All right, thanks everyone. And rather than creator, I think curator is probably a better way to talk about my role at WebPagetest, because while I run the main instance, WebPagetest is an open source project. It's all completely BSD licensed, free for anyone to download, run your own instances and stuff. And it's actually a huge community run effort. If you look at so WebPagetest at its most basic, you put in an URL, you get a whole bunch of test results back. You can select from multiple different browsers around the world. And the around the world locations, you can see Europe is hugely represented here. It's because of all of the partners running test locations, from individual developers running a box in their basement to large corporations sponsoring boxes in their test locations. And it's all because of the community and the web community. Even from a development perspective, a huge call out to Akamai, who open sourced their mobile agents, which are now free for anyone to download and install. You can run testing on your own iOS and Android agents as well. So, like I said, at its most basic, you put in a test, you get it back results. I was joking earlier, I should not be allowed anywhere near end-user facing UI. Pretty much the epitome of web UI. It's not your native app beauty that you were seeing earlier with iOS. But you get back waterfalls, screenshots. You can drill in, you can see how things load. I wanted to take you guys into a little bit of the advanced settings. So don't be too scared with the advanced settings. Drill down below the fold. That's where your interesting stuff's going to happen. Some of the things that you really want to pay attention to, the video tab is probably going to be your most used friend. Steve keeps harassing me to make this on by default. Maybe if I get a couple more drives for storage, I'll be able to do that. But when you record video with your tests, you'll be able to do a side-by-side video, and I'll show you that in just a second. But you can also do a bunch of other cool things. One of the things you're probably going to want to do, especially if you're doing testing for end users in Europe, one of the things WebPagetest does that's kind of unique is it simulates the end user connectivity using traffic shaping. And it's really important that you actually pick connectivity that's representative of your end users. Don't necessarily use the defaults. The defaults are generally skewed towards the lower end. In the US, it's around the 75th percentile, which is a 1.5 megabit DSL connectivity. If you get results there that aren't matching what you're seeing in your real user testing, and I do strongly recommend you also have real user monitoring measurement, Google Analytics or whatever, that tells you what your end user performance looks like. Cable, I have found, works really well to simulate sort of the typical connectivity that you get in Europe. You can also do things like disabling JavaScript. One of the things that you'll want to do fairly frequently is this block command, which what you can do is you put in here a string pattern for something that you want to block. Let's say you want to see what your site looks like with or without ads. And you don't want to go ahead and mock up an entire site and push it to production without supporting ads. You just block the call to the ad system here, and you can run a test without ads. As far as new things go, I'll be doing a talk at, I guess you guys use the 24-hour format, so 13:15, right after lunch, to explain the SPOF tab, a single point of failure. It'll let you test what it looks like when one of your providers go down, what happens to your site when that happens. So I mentioned the video tab being your best friend. When you record a video, you'll get a film strip view that looks a lot like this. It'll look a lot like this with a single view, but when you run multiple video tests, you sort of collect. Let's say you run a test of what your site looks like, and then you want to see what it looks like without ads. You run it with the ads blocked, and then you click on the test history. And in the test history, you'll get a bunch of checkboxes next to all of your tests that ran that had video captured. And you select the ones that you want to compare. And I had pre-staged Daily Mail, Register, and The Guardian, so you can do side-by-side comparisons in a film strip to see what your site looks like compared to the competitors, what your site looks like with and without ads as far as performance goes. This is a feature Steve actually drove, which is the side-by-side film strip that lets you scroll by and see what the visual experience looks like. You can also create a video. You'll see these anywhere you see a video with the ticker going, the timer going below it. It's probably been generated from WebPagetest. This works really well when you're selling to your bosses, the marketing guys, the business guys. They get visuals really well this way. And you can show, ooh, man. So Daily Mail, for example, it's really good at delivering that text headline, but getting the graphic in there is taking a little bit of time. It's because it's an image-heavy site. Unfortunately, most of the images that are loading initially are all down below the fold. So that's the kind of thing that looking at your site visually will give you. If you look at the video film strip for a single test run, yet another, so Steve drives, I'd say, about 90% of my features. Because he keeps going, man, I just want to be able to do this, but I can't. So what we have is, when you have a single film strip, you'll get the waterfall view below it. And the scrubber, if you'll notice, there's a red line that tracks in the waterfall. So you can see visually what's going on the page. It aligns, I need to do a little more UI, but the left edge of the film strip matches where the red line is in the waterfall. And you can see what's going on, what causes it to take that long, or what's blocking it, or what finally loaded if you scroll way down in the waterfall to see what was going on at that point in time. One of the things I use fairly frequently since it was introduced over the last year is the DevTools timeline. In the advanced settings, if you do a test from Chrome, you can record a DevTools capture. And if you went to Ilya's talk yesterday, you could see some of the really cool features that you get in DevTools. And what you can do is you can do a capture of a test from another country with whatever connectivity you want. You can have your waterfall, your visuals, and you'll also get these links over on the left that let you download the timeline or view it in an in-browser viewer. And luckily, Chrome fixed the bug where you can actually load the timelines you save. And then you can drill down and see what takes so long. So in this case, I think this is the Daily Mail that I had done. You can see there's a whole lot of JavaScript time being spent doing stuff. And you can actually drill down and see what that script is, what's being parsed, what the execution is. So the DOM content loaded, for example, takes forever. Usually that's jQuery, something attached to document ready. Visually, in Chrome and Firefox, we also import things from the navigation timing. So you can see how long the DOM content loaded event actually took. So this purple bar in the waterfall is the width of it tells you the execution time for the DOM content ready event. And if that's anything but a really narrow line, you probably want to look at and see what JavaScript you have attached, because it's taking a fair amount of time to execute. It's blocking the end user experience. In this case, it took close to a second to execute the JavaScript in the DOM content ready handler. So visually, it'll give you, when you're looking at the waterfalls, I usually end up looking at the thumbnails. If the thumbnail doesn't fit on the screen, you probably have too many requests. And if you see the really wide bars there, it tells you really quickly what you have to go look at. And just really quickly, one of the other things I wanted to point out is right up here at the top, there's a try acceleration link. There's a whole lot of vendors out there. There's free solutions, commercial solutions that do automated site acceleration. Even if you're not going to be doing it, PageSpeed service, which is one of the Google services, has a way that you can test it for free without having to sign up or do anything, just to see sort of what low-hanging fruit is there. If I did either the work or if I deployed an acceleration solution, what would it do to my site? What would it look like? You can look at so if you click on it, you'll get this site. You put in an URL, you run the test. You'll get back a result that looks like this. It'll tell you how much faster it got, or slower. Slower does happen sometimes. And you can see visually what it looks like to your site. And you can either choose to hand do the optimizations at that point, maybe look at automation solutions, or it just gives you a really low effort way to test that out. I'll be having office hours as well around right after my 1:15 talk in the pavilion. And Aaron Peters and Andy Davies are doing an awesome talk at 3:15 that goes into, there's so much more in WebPagetest. There's an API you can automate it with, especially for when you're doing internal deployments and stuff. They're going to cover all sorts of deep details. I just really scratched the surface. And Steve's going to come up and show you some other really, really cool stuff he's been working on.